All right. Well, good day, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Julissa Sandoval Squire, and I am so thrilled to have you join us for today. Today's topic is asking the right questions, engaging recruiters at the career fair. In this session, we'll talk about key strategies for standing out and building professional relationships that go beyond just the career fair, right? So our primary focus today will be on developing thoughtful and insightful questions that not only demonstrate your professionalism, but also showcase a genuine interest in the companies and the organizations along with the roles that you're targeting. So we'll discuss how to effectively engage recruiters, whether you're talking to them in person or virtually, and then how to adapt your personal approach based on your career aspirations and really your personal goals. So by the end of the session, you'll have actionable tips on how to engage recruiters in meaningful conversations, and then also pivoting toward the right opportunities. And you want to make sure that you're building lasting connections that really serve as stepping stones in your career journey, and that you're making a huge impact on that first point of meeting those recruiters. So we are pleased to have distinguished presenters. We have Sergio Waldeck and Maura Celario Pinger, who will lead us through the session and offer a ton of valuable advice on how to make the most of every recruiter interaction. So we look forward to an engaging and informative session where you'll walk away with the tools to leaving a lasting impression and really create those opportunities for connection for your future success. So without further ado, I would like to present to you former Prospanica Tampa board member, Mara, an industry recruiter for over 25 years, and Sergio, who's chapter president of Tampa. So before we dive into our insightful presentation, would you please take a moment and introduce yourselves in a few sentences?
Thank you, Julissa. I am so excited to be here tonight. I do appreciate the opportunity to be sharing some insightful information that has actually helped me over the years. As Julissa mentioned, I am a recruiter. I started in the consulting technology world, and now I am in the financial services. I live in Tampa. I am from Argentina and moved to Brazil when I was 7 years old because my dad was transferred there. And now I'm in the US, and I originally came here, I don't even remember how many years ago, to go to college, but now I call this country my home, and I'm very excited to be with all of you. So I'll pass it on to Sergio.
Thank you, Mauda. Thank you, Jalissa. I appreciate the 2 years you have done in the Indianapolis chapter, Jalissa, and appreciate you moderating this. And thank you to Prospanica for organizing this. And thanks to all of you who made the time to come in, prepare, use this as a preparation for the exciting virtual career fair that Prospanica is going to be having next week. I just want to introduce myself. And, I guess I'm getting a little old. Unlike Maura, I had to write down what I have done. So I'm just going to go to a slide here. Just make sure we can go to the next slide. Okay, perfect. My name is Sergio Waldeck. I'm the president of Prospanica Tampa Bay. I've been with Prospanica for over 25 years and have also been in the banking industry for about 25 years. Working with some of the largest financial institutions like Citibank, JP Morgan Chase, Wells Fargo, and the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. I got my MBA from the University of South Florida here in Tampa. It's where I first learned about Prospanica. Back then, they were called the National Society of Hispanic MBAs. It was a great organization that really helped me acclimate to American work culture because I was an immigrant from Brazil, born in Rio de Janeiro. And so, I really benefited from Prospanica when I was a student, and I would encourage all the students here to sign up, join, and I benefited so much that I wanted to give back and have given the last 25 years of my career to volunteer. That's some of my hobbies: volunteering, sports, and traveling. And from a personal angle, been married to my wife, Camilla Waldeck, who's also involved with Prospanica. And I have two children, Andre and Christina, who have had their share of Prospanica events as well. So it's in the family. I did put my LinkedIn below. As you know, I know this is being transmitted on LinkedIn, and any of you who want to connect, please feel free to reach out. Now, Mauda is a recruiter, as she introduced herself. She's done this for a living, so you're going to be hearing from some of the very best. Mauda actually hired me and recruited me into my current job. So I'm a bit biased, but I think she is the very best, and I think you guys are in for a treat. You might be asking, why is a finance manager talking about recruiting though? And so I just want to go to this last slide that I have been very involved with Prospanica, and I've been, to half a dozen conferences, and I've done recruiting as from a hiring manager perspective. In all of the different institutions that I've been, and you see some pictures here from Wells Fargo, JP, Citi, and Federal Reserve. So I think you're going to get a good balanced input, not just from the recruiter perspective, such as Mauda, but also from a hiring manager perspective, and as a Prospanica, candidate that has gone through many different Prospanica conventions. So that's just a little bit about us. But why don't we get here into the agenda, just so you guys can, see what we're going to kind of talk about. You'll see we kind of touched on the perspectives between the recruiters and the hiring managers, something that you want to just be aware of. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Obviously, the focus for this call is going to be techniques to engage with recruiters at career fairs. So we'll focus a lot of time on that. But we'll give you sample questions, to give to either recruiters or hiring managers, and kind of give you some food for thought to help you prepare. You're going to get some words of wisdom, from somebody with a lot of experience, from Mauda's perspective. We're going to make sure you guys have time to do Q&A. That is going to be the most exciting part of it, because we want to make sure we answer your questions. And then we're going to follow up with some closing, which we're going to remind you to sign up for the April 9th virtual career fair. So, but we're going to take a shot right now to let you guys know to sign up, and then we'll do it back at the end again.
And Sergio, I wanted to jump in quickly.
Yeah,
I think that
absolutely.
the second bullet, recruiter versus hiring manager, is a good one. I know you made a difference already on what that means, but in general, when you are applying for a small firm, a small company, usually, the recruiter, the hiring manager, they're kind of one and the same. Sometimes the managers are doing all of it from beginning to end. They may have a very small HR team, so the hiring manager may be more involved. For a larger corporation, the recruiter is really that first point of contact, right? When you apply, the recruiters are the ones reading the resumes, and they're the ones that you want to build that relationship from the get-go. And then the hiring manager, what that means is that's the person that owns the position that has to be filled. That's why they're call hiring managers, but they usually have a team of people that help them with that decision, which are the interviewers. So I just wanted to briefly make that differentiation.
It's a very important differentiation. I appreciate you jumping in there and clarifying that. I mean, I really think that is part of our, it's our first slide. It's where we want to start the discussion with. And I think Mauda did an excellent job in kind of framing it. I'll add a couple of my perspectives here as well. As I had introduced myself, I have never been an official recruiter, but all of those firms that I've worked with that I showed you, when they come in for a career fair, whether it's virtual or whether it's in person, they usually, it is common to bring in a diverse set of recruiting team. And obviously it starts with the recruiters like Mauda, that is the bread and butter, that's the core of it. And they're usually leading the conventions. But many times they do bring, managers, hiring managers, and in some cases, representatives from their ERGs, the employee resource groups, which can give a different lens to it. So you might have people that are recruiting in the career fair from HR, or from the actual business, technology, or finance, or just from even, just they're very focused with the ERGs or something of that nature. So I think it's important to just differentiate this, because you really, when you're talking to people, and this whole topic is about engaging with the recruiters, and we're going to use the word recruiters, and all of the feedback that we're going to give to you, a lot of it, applies generally across the board, to recruiters, to hiring managers. But I think it's important for you guys just to have a notion of the differences, and trying to get, like, who is the individual that I'm talking to? Is this person in HR? Is this person in the business? Because you are going to be able to differentiate some of the questions a little bit different. A lot of the questions are going to be exactly the same, but with the recruiter, you might want to go a little bit more into the logistics and the administrative part and the recruiting. Where with the hiring manager, you could talk a little bit more about the day in the life, And so it's important to just, we're going to use the word recruiters for the purposes of this presentation, but just be mindful that it might not be an HR recruiter who's there recruiting you. It could be a business manager that's there as well. Would you agree with that, Mara? Anything you'd like
Yes,
to?
no, absolutely. Yep, no, and I think later in the presentation we have some differences on. You made a point already on what questions to ask to whom, but at some
Yeah.
point, the questions may be the same. But no, I agree with you 100%. And by the way, you mentioned LinkedIn. To have LinkedIn open when you are in the career fair, in the virtual fair, and right there and then, you can just Google LinkedIn that person to see, who are they within that company? Are they a manager? Are they a senior manager? Are they in HR? So LinkedIn is an amazing tool. We'll talk a little bit more about it if we have time at the end, but you cannot underestimate the power of LinkedIn, in your not only network and career growth and job search.
That's exactly right. So yeah, that's our first slide. Unless you want to add anything else, Mara, I can jump to the next one. But let
Yes.
me try to get I think I have it here. Okay, all right. So okay, let's get to kind of some of the meat of it. Mara, would you like to go first in terms of
Yeah,
some of
and I know, yes, and I know this is a bulleted point, but there are some that are extremely important. The first one that I would say is, not only target the company, but research the company, right? When you go to a career fair, be it virtual or in person, it's your precious time, and it's the precious time of those that are working the career fair. So do your homework ahead of time. Every single career fair, virtual or not, does have a list of the companies attending. So don't go to Starbucks booth if you have no interest in working for Starbucks, right? So really, really research that company. What do they do? They may be a small firm that you never heard about, and it may be the perfect match for you. So just because you don't know the name of the firm doesn't mean you shouldn't go to that booth, but that takes preparation and takes research. Not only research the company, do they even have a presence where you live, right? If I want to work for Citi and they are not in, Australia where I live, why would I even visit that booth if they cannot offer me something that is close to my home? But then, in addition to research in the company, their presence, take a look at what openings they have, right? Again, do you want to go to that? Networking is very precious. But, if you're in a career fair, virtual, you only have so much time to visit, 15 different booths. Well, do they even have jobs that align with my background, right? Why would you go to a technical type company if you're on the operations side and they have no operations job opened? So that's definitely one that I cannot stress enough how important it is to really, really research the companies, where are they located, and what jobs they have available. Um, Also, one of the things, and Sergio, I'll just go with some of the bullets that I had written down
Sure,
for
sure.
myself. When you are in a booth, and this is, I haven't looked at the format for this particular virtual fair, but usually a virtual fair has a limited amount of time that you can spend with a person, just because of the amount of candidates and visitors that they have. So when you are in that moment with that recruiter or maybe a manager, really take advantage of that moment to either ask questions that are going to help you decide if you even want to apply for that role. You know, I've been in career fairs where they say, hey, I applied for this job. Do you have an update for me? You know, that is not the venue or the time to take it into a more personal level, to try to ask individual questions, because the person attending right there, that person representing that company, may have not even have access to the recruiting system. So they may not even be able to help you with a particular role that you may have applied in the past. However, there's nothing wrong with asking that person that you are connecting with, say, hey, can I connect with you on LinkedIn? Or could I have your email address? So it's totally fine to ask to have an email address. If, I've been in virtual fairs where the conversation is amazing, but then I see the clock ticking because they're gonna bring another guest. So we have exchanged email addresses. We have exchanged, LinkedIn connections. So those are some of the things. And then moving a little forward after that career fair, now you have visited some booths. Now you're very interested. You know that they have positions that you may be interested in. Make sure that when you do apply for a position, you read that job description and read the requirements, right? You want to make sure that what you're applying for is not even, do you meet the skills, but is that even a job that you want to do, right? So always be very mindful of reading job descriptions, job requirements, to see if they match not only your background, your experience, but also your career goals, which are extremely important, right? Sergio, what other nuggets do you want to chime in here?
Yeah, no, I think you covered it well. I think it's very valuable information. I'm just going to cover some of the items here in the list that might have not been touched on. But look, the very first one, it's all about preparation. And I think like preparing by attending a pre-fair network event, such as this one, well, all of you get kudos for that. You're already a step ahead. So your
And
preparation.
kudos to Prospanica, because not many virtual fairs offer a pre-career fair event. So this is amazing.
That's exactly right. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And, kudos to all of you who took the time to take advantage of the opportunity and to just kind of help prepare. And Nada and I, are going to do our very best to help you prepare and help you get successful results from not just this virtual career fair, but from all future career fairs as well. Like you guys heard in the intro, Mara and I, between the two of us, have over 50 years of experience on this, and so we really want you guys to succeed with this. We covered the top one. I think Mada really touched already on the next three. Like target your companies, know where you're going. I know we have some really good companies in the virtual career fair: Edward Jones, Humana, CVS Health. There's a lot of really good ones. To her point, make sure that these are the ones that you want. Make sure you do the research. You know, I think right now the RTO and return to office is a big thing. If you want hybrid, make sure that that's what they're offering. If you want to be remote, make sure that. But you want to know this stuff. There's no reason why you shouldn't know it beforehand. Like you don't want to waste that precious time that Mata talked about with talking about like basic stuff that anyone can research. You want to have more insightful, impactful, and you really want to be focused on making the bond there so that you could be memorable. So do your research. Read the company news, see what's going on. The recruiters are going to be impressed when you're talking about what's going on. They're going to be like, this person did their research. You're going to stand out. And in reality, that's what it is. It's a human connection. It's about standing out. You want to try to make a bond with the recruiter, the hiring manager, whoever you're talking to, and so listen to them, actively listen to them. Don't just start thinking about, well, what's going to be my next question. Make sure you're listening to the nuggets that they're sharing with you right there. Be present in the moment.
Can I make a comment on that,
Oh,
Sergio?
absolutely. Of
That
course.
is a
Yes.
great point. I've been in virtual fairs, especially where the person comes in, hi, we introduce ourselves, and then crickets. And I can tell that the person is multitasking. I mean, if you are really investing the time to attend a virtual career fair, a real career fair, really put the time and the effort into that present moment, right? If you're talking to a person, don't be thinking, 3 booths later, where am I going to be doing and who am I going to be talking to? Even if the recruiter is not very interesting, or the conversation is not really what you're looking for, stay engaged. So that you can show professional, oh my goodness, being professional. So that's just one point I wanted to make on that one. Really be in the moment.
No, it's a great point, Maud. I appreciate you highlighting that because in the end, you want them to remember you. Now, if you just come in there and you have your robotic memorization and you just say, exactly, what you memorized. I mean, it's like, don't get me wrong. I mean, that does have some does have some goods to it. But what you really want to do is you want to make the bond, you want to be genuine, you want to be authentic, you want to pivot the conversation to wherever it goes. You want in the end to be able to, for them to like, yeah, I remember that individual. That individual is very impressive. When Mara and I go to these career fairs, we recruited for them. I mean, we can meet 50, 100 people in one day, right? And to be able to try to stand out in one way, I think the best way is be yourself, be genuine, be authentic, be confident in yourself. I know it can be nerve-wracking. I remember when I was in USF going to my very first Prospanica conference, it could be overwhelming, but be confident in yourself, in your education, in your skills, in your resume. Have that. I know we did some discussions, some pre-convention workshops on the resume and on the elevator pitch. So these are all things that can help build your confidence. Make sure you're smiling. If it's a physical one, make sure you have a firm handshake. And so these are all things that I think can help stand out, so that once the discussion is over, the person really, you made a good impression. And I think Mata had touched on LinkedIn being a powerful tool. Back in the days when I was in MBA, we all had our business cards. I think with COVID, business cards kind of went away. I mean, there's still some that use it, and if you have them, definitely bring them with you. But kind of the new business card is the LinkedIn. Connect, make sure that you can stay connected. You never know. Mara and I had met over 20 years ago, and we had just recently we reconnected, and we definitely like I said in the beginning, sometimes you just can't imagine the future of where the relationships are going to go. So
Yeah.
connect with the relationships, make the relationships, and try to connect with them on LinkedIn. Anything you want to add, Mara?
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned about, and this, it wouldn't apply to a virtual career fair, but there's actually some in-person career fairs talking about LinkedIn, but they have it where you can open LinkedIn and it will show you who's around you. I don't even know what the technology is called, but it's within LinkedIn. So if you go if you do attend something in person, see if they're offering that feature where you can have your LinkedIn open and it shows you other people around you that are right there and then. So anyway, I just wanted to mention that quickly.
Yeah, it really is a powerful tool. We might have to do a workshop on LinkedIn just by itself, because there's a lot of really good things. But I think she had touched on, you see the person that's doing the recruiting, look them up, and you can, you'll see information of what they do, what business they support, whether they're a hiring manager or a recruiter, like we had talked about in the beginning of the session. So definitely use it. And I think the one that hasn't got touched on here, because we're spitballing a lot of things at you, but the second to last one is enjoy it, have fun. I know extroverts just in general like making new contacts. I think everyone likes to learn, so enjoy the moment as well. Make the new contacts, learn. This should be a pleasurable moment. I know there's a lot of pressures about, oh, I got to get a job here, I got to get a job there. But I think this all goes to what we're trying to say. If you seem like you're stressed and you're worried, like you might not come across the way that's going to help you succeed. So be confident, be yourself, remain genuine, be authentic, try to have fun, smile, and just prep and do your homework. But I think that's really some of the main techniques that we wanted to share with you guys. And I'll pause it to Mara one last time in case she wants to add anything else before we move on.
No, we can go, we can move on. We got lots to cover.
Okay, perfect. All right, let me go here to the next slide, and we're going to take questions at the end. So if any of these things that we said, I know we threw a lot at you guys. If anything, please write it down, put it on the on. I think we're in a few social medias right now, LinkedIn. I think maybe Facebook and maybe Twitter. So just put it there. We have administrators from the National Prospanica. Lorena is doing a great job helping set this up, and she'll capture your questions and we'll make sure to cover this. So just write them down. Okay, the next section now is we talked about techniques. Now let's talk a little bit about like what kind of questions, And again, back to our old slide, be authentic, be ready to pivot, let it be organic. You should definitely come in with 2 or 3 questions already prepared, definitely recommended. But as you're talking to the recruiter, if they are saying something that sparks your interest, and even if you hadn't written it down, like just go ahead and let it be organic, like a normal conversation, So these are just things to help you think through. But in the end, the most important part is to be genuine and authentic and present in the moment. So you should definitely be ready to pivot. But some of the things for you to think through is, ask them about their experience with the firm. And look, people love talking about themselves, and you can learn a lot about themselves when you get them talking, and you can see, their passion for the firms if their eye starts glowing, and what their experience has been when they started, how long they have been, how their transition, if they had multiple jobs or they were able to grow. These are all things you want to know for yourself anyway. And then in this way, you're making a personal bond with the individual while getting important information about their own journey and about what the firm gives for people to grow. So definitely ask
Yeah, and
about.
a good way
Yeah.
about a good way of about asking that, Serge. You mentioned, people like talking about themselves. Just, bluntly ask the person, why do you like working here? What is it about the company that attracted you to work in this company? Because they may say something that you go, oh no, I don't want to work here, right? But ask them on a personal level, what is it that you like about the company? And you can even say, what is it that you would change about the company, right? So yeah, definitely asking them at that personal level would be great. And then the company culture kind of ties in with that, right? You want to know, what is the culture in that company? Meaning, does it align with your kind of culture? Does it align with your kind of passion, right? Like a company like City, they are all for, volunteering and community service and serving the community. If that's something that interests you, you're going to be more attracted to that company than not. But go ahead, Sergio. I just wanted to chime in on that.
Oh no, and as you guys tell, this is very organic. So it's really more about a dialogue, and we only wish if this wasn't virtual, we would be taking questions within the slides to make sure you guys were involved. But the questions, as we said in the beginning, are the most important part of it. So please jot down your questions. We want to address them all, and we're going to have at least 15 minutes for Q&A. So make sure we get you guys engaged. But Bamada, I couldn't agree with you more. It's a two-way interview, folks. So not only are you learning from them, they're going to be looking at you and your resume and your skill set. But to Mada's point, you have to make sure that it's the culture you want.
Yeah.
And I like how she framed it, Mada. You said, maybe even, well, what is the best part you like, and what's the part that you would change? That way you're kind of getting the pro and the con, so that you really have a balance. Look, I like how you framed that, Mada.
Another good one too, Sergio, is how long have you been with this firm? Right? I mean, if you look at a company like Citi, when you meet people, they've been with Citi for 30 years, 40 years. I mean, that says something about the company. So asking somebody not only what do they like about the company, why are you working there, but also, what has been your trajectory in the company? Is this the job, the one and only job you have had since you started, or have you changed jobs since you've been with this company? But how long have you been with the company?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the length of years it shows a lot about a company. And I
Yep.
mean, and like for myself, I actually came back to Citi, and that talks volumes about the company as well, because it shows, sometimes, you really miss it, and then, you realize how good it is, So there is and that all goes back to the first question, asking them about their experience, because not only are you learning about them, not only are you building a bond with them, but you're also learning a lot of important information about the company and whether this is the
Yes,
kind of place you want to be in. But so I think, Mara, you just touched on the second one about the company culture. So I think
that's
it's
very
good.
important. Yes, that's
Yeah.
very, very important. Yep.
Next one, you should definitely, this goes back to researching the company. You should have a notion about their products and services.
Yep.
You should, and especially if there's something new that's going on. AI these days are changing a lot of things. If there's something that's changing the products or the service or the industry trends, I think you can really impress and stand out, being informed and knowledgeable and showing that as part of the ways you're engaging with them. Really, it's
You
going to
know,
make.
Sergio, you bring a great point on this one. So let's say Starbucks is going to be at a career fair, and you're researching, their products and services. When you are in that career booth, in that, you can say, I read about XYZ, a new product that you're going to launch. Is that, I actually have worked in marketing in the past. Do you think that that's something that the company can benefit from? So it shows that you have done your research. So by you maybe pick one thing of interest when you're researching that company about a product or service they offer, and you can bring that into the conversation, especially if you wanted, like, you know do an icebreaker. That's a great point for your icebreaker, is to ask them about some specific you read about that company, a product or service on their website or on the news.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. Yeah, it's we already used Citi as an example, so I'll stick to that example. Cities now has artificial intelligence in its job postings, and so if you come in there and you start saying something to the nature of, "Wow, I really like how you guys," back to the industry trends on the fourth bullet point, or now leveraging AI. First, it shows you've already done your homework, you've already been there, you've already looked at the job, you already saw some of the industry trends that were changing. So you see how doing the research and doing the homework can really set you up for standing out, being remembered, and it's simple stuff. I'm just going to move on to the fifth bullet point. I think this isn't most everyone on this call. I know you guys aren't just looking for a job. You're looking for a career, right? And so it's important to ask about growth opportunities. And we touched on it about asking the recruiter about how that individual has grown. But in general, you should be talking about, like, well, what kind of growth opportunities do you have, and how does the career path look? And these conversations can go a little deeper also when you're talking to a hiring manager as well, who would know the business career path. But all of these things that we're telling you apply for both hiring managers and recruiters, but sometimes there are subtle differences that you might want to emphasize with one or the other, depending on who you're talking to. Um, and look, if you are in like a Prospanica conference, right? I mean, you might want to ask them about their involvement with Prospanica. How long have they been involved, and just the efforts, because I think, likely you're a member, and you might want to offer, especially, like we met Jalissa, who's been a volunteer leader. If you've done any volunteerism, if you've given back, or if you've done, it's very appropriate to talk about what you have done with Prospanica, what you've have volunteered, or what you've led, because it shows them, under the umbrella of Prospanica, that you're doing everything you've done, and you're doing more and above in volunteerism and leadership opportunities. So definitely would encourage you to, if it is like whatever conference it is, in this case it's Prospanica, just try to tie it in with the theme of the conference. And last but not least, just once you have done the research and the specific roles that you're looking for, make sure to they might not be hiring for that specific role. So if they're not, they might be able to connect you with a different recruiter. They might be able to take your resume back. but at least make sure you are transparent about what brought you to their booth, what does interest you, but keep an open mind, see what else they might have there that they might be able to talk to you about. But even if it's something that business is not there, most of these companies have a way to filter it back to their corporate recruiters and make sure you don't fall through the cracks. But Amada, anything you want to add on any of these points?
Yes, we forgot the most important question. As soon as you start a virtual fair, you need to say, "Hey, how are you?" I'm so, and thank the person for their time. Like that should be your opening remark to say, "Thank you for your time. How are you doing today? I hope you're enjoying being, volunteering in this event." So that's probably should be always the first thing is to open with a positive. You mentioned the positive attitude before, Sergio, but that should really always be the first question is to ask the person how they're doing, thanking them for their time that they're taking to speak with you virtually in person, and that you're very appreciative of their time.
Yeah, yeah. I guess I even took it for granted, but you're right. I mean, that should be the very first one up here. So people, it's really that human touch, and it goes back to the bonding experience. That's I would say, like they're gonna be able to read your resume. You want to be able to have your elevator pitch. You want to be able to talk about all the strengths that you made. But in the end, you need to try to connect and make a bond so that you are memorable. There is a lot of competition. There are lots of people, and you need to find a way to stand out. And creating that genuine and authentic bond is a sure way to do it.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that covers this slide. And again, I'm sure we've probably raised some questions. Please write them down. Please put it on the group chat. And unless Mauda has anything else to add, I will go ahead and skip to the next slide. Mauda, are you good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, all right. Let me just okay, here we go. Um, Okay. All right. So this is so we talked a lot about we talked about we did the intro, we talked about the difference between recruiting and hiring managers, we did the techniques, we did the questions. And this part here is just really to try to just a lot of this was your wisdom, but we really just wanted to highlight, Maudie, you have 25 years of experience with this, and just really emphasize some of the key things here now to kind of bring all these different pieces together.
Absolutely. No, and thank you for giving me the opportunity because it's going to be a pretty straightforward list, things that you may have heard before, or maybe some of these things are just reminders for you. One is super simple, but something people don't think about. Make sure your resume has your email and your phone number. As silly as that sounds, when recruiters are reviewing hundreds of resumes a day and they want to make that phone call, if you don't have it on your resume, now they're having to take the extra step to go back to their applicant tracking system and pull it up that way. So don't take it for granted. Always provide your email and your phone number on your resume. Believe it or not, it is something that helps the recruiters a whole lot. And again, I'm saying recruiter, but it may be a manager, right? That is reviewing your resume, that needs your number or your email address. The second bullet I'm going to say is have not one, not two, but have three different people look at your resume. Yes, you can pay for professional resume reviews, but you can ask a colleague, you can ask your brother, you can ask a friend, because you cannot believe how useful it is when you have a second, third, fourth set of eyes going through your resume. Something as simple as the word for and from, your spelling check on Word or PowerPoint may not catch those mistakes. So there's nothing wrong with asking other set of eyes, especially when you have been working on something over and over and over, and you have seen the same document forever and you don't really catch it. So make sure you have others review your resume. um, more than one person, more than two, maybe three people review your resume. And it doesn't have to be a professional paid thing. Just ask somebody that you know and you trust, of course. Sergio made mention of this, but definitely a lot of companies are implementing AI. And I know it's scary to think about companies using AI, but it's actually helping candidates. So the way that many companies are using it is they give the candidate an opportunity to upload their resume. And then in the background, the AI technology is matching the skills in your resume to the open positions that they have in their company. Again, going back to your resume, that's why it's super important to have your resume super, clean and up to date. Make sure you have tons of keywords, things that you know how to do if you speak multiple languages, if you have technical skills. Make sure you have them on your resume, because if one of those companies is using AI, that's what is being used to match you to their open jobs. When you're talking to a recruiter, when you are being, or a manager, and they are scheduling for interviews, or even sometimes with a recruiter, they may have a phone screen with you first. Make sure what job you are discussing with that person, right? As a candidate, you may be interviewing, or you may have applied to 20 jobs. So which one out of the 20 jobs are you going to discuss with that recruiter or with that manager? So there's nothing wrong asking the person who you're connected with for that job ID. Most companies, when they post their jobs, they don't only have a job title, but they have a job ID. So make sure you know which job it is that you're about to interview or discuss with that company representative, right? Regarding Zoom interviews, be very aware of your background. So a lot of companies nowadays, especially since COVID, are relying on Zoom for their interviews, which also makes it helpful for us to be able to interview more people than not, right? When we can do Zoom interviews versus in person. So be very aware, A, of your background. Most Zoom applications, if you have it on your computer, on your phone, will allow you to blur your background, so make it blurry. And if you don't have that capability on your Zoom, make sure that behind you there's like a white wall, or just something very neutral. You don't want anybody that is at that point talking to you be distracted, right? They saw, oh, look, she has a pillow behind her, right? You don't want them being distractive at all. But also, more importantly, well, as important too, if you are doing a Zoom interview or a phone interview at home, make sure you let everybody know around you that you're going to be on an interview. The last thing you need is somebody opening the door or knocking on the door or coming talk to you while you are using that precious time to demonstrate your skills and in speaking with a company representative. When it goes to in-person interviews, make sure you arrive early, right? I remember for one of the companies that I was hired, I actually drove the night before to make sure I knew where I was going, because I didn't want to be late the day of that interview. Of course, this was because it was in a neighborhood that I didn't really know, but always think about arriving at least 50 minutes earlier. Have your ID. A lot of companies won't allow you access to the company unless you have your ID. So you do have to have an ID with you. You don't want that to be the one thing that doesn't allow you to be in the interview. Um, Bring copies of your resume. Maybe the printer is broken. Maybe the person that you're going to meet with didn't have time to print your resume. So don't assume that by you arriving at that interview that they're going to have your resume. So bring maybe 3, 4, 5 copies if you have to make sure you can pass them along. And then this one goes both for Zoom, phone, and in-person interviews, but silence your phone. You can even just turn it off altogether. Those 30 minutes, 45 minutes, hour long time that is given to you is for you. Nothing else matters at that time. So you don't have to have your phone with you. Couple more things I will say, and then Sergio, pass it on to you. Don't be discouraged, right? Interviewing is actually a skill. So if you have to interview 30 times before you find your perfect job, hey, listen, it's 30 times that you have practice. So don't look at a thank you, but no thank you as a way of being discouraged, but actually a way of you saying, hey, I just happened to practice interviewing again. And you will get better as time goes. And then the last point is very, very important. It could make a difference between you getting the job and not getting the job, but always send a thank you note. So if you're in person, you can ask for the person's email to send them a thank you note. Sometimes in my case as a recruiter, if a candidate says, hey, can I have the manager's email? I will ask them to send me the thank you note and I will send it to the manager, because there are more chances that they'll read it if it comes from me than if it comes from an email that they don't know. So don't underestimate the power of a thank you note. In that thank you email is your opportunity to kind of summarize your strengths, right? Now you went through the interview. Now you understand what they're looking for based on all the questions that they have asked you. So with that thank you note, you can really, really summarize and say, hey, during the interview, you mentioned that you're looking for somebody that has done transformation work. Let me tell you how I did this in the past, because in the interview, you may not have time to highlight all of your strengths. So use that thank you note to really a bullet point maybe of all of your strengths, but don't forget to say thank you and thank you for their time. Sergio, that's all I had. Any other points you want to bring up?
No, I think you covered it masterfully. I'm not gonna add anything else to it because I do want us to also have at least 10 minutes for Q&A. So I'm gonna go to the very last slide here and then gonna turn it over for some Q&A. And we can keep this one very brief, but look, we know that this one is a virtual career fair that's coming, but everything that Mauda has shared with you, that I've shared with you, all the different points, 99% of this applies for both in-person and virtual career fair. Obviously, you can't shake a hand in a virtual one, but most of the stuff does apply, So just really wanted you to use this forum as something broader than just the virtual career fair that's coming up, but hopefully these are things that can help you guys in the future, no matter what type of career fair. I think we could leave it there because we started off in the agenda saying that the most important part of this is to make sure that we address your questions. You guys took a lot of time to come here. So I think I'm turning it back over to Jalissa to do the Q&A, or maybe it's Lorena. I'm sorry for
It's me.
forgetting who's taking it. Okay.
It's me. All right. Well, before we get into the questions, I just want to thank you, Sergio and Maura, for the incredible presentation. I think you shared some very good insights where individuals have gained a wealth of knowledge and some wisdom in developing questions that reflect professionalism, that reflect that intentionality with building those relationships and having those meaningful conversations with recruiters. So with that, I would like to transition to our live Q&A session. We do have some questions already posted here on the chat. So I will start with the first one. So whoever, Sergio or Mauro, you guys want to take this one? It doesn't matter. So the question is, what post-career fair actions can help candidates differentiate themselves from the competition?
Yeah, I'll chime in as a job seeker multiple times in my life. I actually had an Excel spreadsheet, believe it or not, right? So I attended first one in the career fair or in the virtual fair. I had my notepad and I'm writing things down like crazy. I mean, I'm literally writing down names, company names. If they give me business cards, I'm saving the business cards. But a post-career fair step could be, it doesn't need to be an Excel, but organize the information that you gathered so then you can use it accordingly. So in my case, when I was looking for a job, I literally would write down, if I went to a career fair, the contacts. I would send them a follow-up email, say, hey, I met you at the fair XYZ. It was great to meet you. It may not even be the company that you're interested in, or even the interview that you had is not even the kind of job that you want. But always send a follow-up note. But back to my Excel spreadsheet on what to do post-career fair, company name, when did you meet them? Did you send an email? When did you send it? And who did you send it to, or who did you meet? That way you can have your follow-ups, maybe a week later, maybe 2 weeks later. but you have to be organized. I mean, looking for a job, searching for a job is a job in itself. So you do have to be very purposeful and very organized. Sergio?
No, yeah, I think Mata covered it well. I couldn't agree with her more. She had also touched on the thank you notes, which is a very important part of the post-career fair to stay engagement. I think the only thing I can add to emphasize is back to our discussion on LinkedIn, and how that's an important tool. If you have connected with an individual as well, I think that's another opportunity for continued engagement, even post. If the individual's posting some things or putting some content out there that might be pertinent, being able to respond back or to engage and like it or add insight into it. So I think that's a way. I mean, LinkedIn even like celebrates people's birthdays and stuff. Like if you connected with a person, 2 weeks later says it's the person's birthday, hey, happy birthday as well. I mean, that's like a very, so there's just between the thank you notes and all the advice that Mara just gave and leveraging the tool as a way to continue the conversation, I think are all great ways to be able to keep it going post the career fair. So hopefully that answers your question. Jalissa, do you want to go to the next one?
Okay, yes. So the next question, it says, how can I follow up with a recruiter without looking desperate? When is it appropriate to reach out after having a conversation with them?
Yeah, and I'll speak as a recruiter. I mean, you're not going to sound desperate unless you're emailing a recruiter every hour in the hour, like every day, right? I mean, think about yourself, right? Put yourself in the shoes of a recruiter, right? How often would you like to hear? And it also comes depends on the recruiter. So for example, in my case, when I talk to a candidate, I make it very clear that if they don't hear from me, it just means that we haven't made a decision, but they will hear from me. Now, not every recruiter has the same process. So maybe you can ask the recruiter. I mean, let me put it back on you. Tell the recruiter, hey recruiter, when can I follow up with you? Is it okay if I send you a quick note next week? So ask them what is the cadence that they are comfortable with in following up back with them. And they may say, I'll get back to you. Don't worry. If you hear crickets, it means that we're making decisions. Or they may say, hey, you know what? I have a short memory. Follow up with me next week. So first ask the recruiter. If you forget to ask them, then maybe wait a couple of days. So if you interviewed on a Tuesday, I would definitely give it a week, right? So after an interview, for example, the recruiter has to collect the feedback, and there may be maybe three interviewers doing the interview, and that same interviewer may be interviewing for 5 other jobs. So interviewers are always very busy. It's not just the hiring manager interviewing, they usually have a panel. So I would wait anywhere between 72 hours to a week, but always post a question in the beginning of the process. That's a good way to go about it.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree with Mara more. I do think obviously the example she gave should not be every hour. I personally don't think it should be every day neither. I even from a candidate perspective when I was looking, or from as hiring, I think she gave good advice in saying like treat others how you want to be treated, right? And so I think you got to give it some time naturally. It will depend a little bit on the circumstance, and I like Marta's advice about like just ask. That's you're always going to have questions, a chance to ask questions at the end, and you can say, when are you guys looking to make a decision? Is this the beginning of the interview, or is this towards the end?
Yeah,
I mean, if it's the
absolutely.
beginning, yeah. If it's the beginning of the interview, and they just started, I mean, it might be a few weeks before they can be in a position. So you just have to be mindful of the information that you got to it. But in general, I would say like whatever it was that you guys did and left it off at, I would say in general, I would say a week is probably the healthy perspective. It is a fine balance. Like you do want to show that you are, you're proactive, that you haven't forgot, that you're interested, that you're engaged, that you want to, but yeah, you don't want to overdo it either. So, you have to use your judgment depending on the circumstances. But if you had to pick a time to default, I would say within a week from the last interaction.
And let me go back to my Excel spreadsheet if I could. That's why it's important to be organized, because you want to have a way of let's say, when I was looking for a job, I think I was interviewing for 5 or 7 different companies. It's hard to keep track. So again, doesn't need to be an Excel spreadsheet, but write down, the day you send the email, so you know when to send a follow-up, the day that you interviewed, so you know when to send a follow. I mean, it all becomes blurry after a while when you're a job seeker. So you do have to be organized. Another point, Julissa, that kind of ties with this is when you are going to send an email, a follow-up email, a thank you email, please check that there's no spelling errors. That is a complete turn off. It is something that would actually potentially eliminate you if you don't read and reread and read again the emails that you're sending to recruiters or managers. Make sure that there's no misspellings, no grammar errors, nothing like that, that it looks clean and correct.
Alyssa, I think we might have time for one more question.
Absolutely. So what types of questions show that a candidate is thinking long-term about the career with the company?
And you're a hiring manager, Sergio. I will just give one tidbit on this, and then you can say this, but by simply asking how long have you been with a company. Many times when I ask a candidate why are they looking for a position, they will tell me, well, I'm looking for a company where I can retire. By simply saying that absolutely tells me that you are looking long term, right? So also asking how long they have been. You can be honest and say, I am looking for a company where I can really have a career and where I can stay the long term. So you can actually voice that to whoever you're speaking with. Sergio?
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more about it. And I think in our list of questions, there were a couple there talking about growth opportunities. I think that's a very important one, not only finding out about how they have grown or what the standard career path is, but just trying to figure out, for students, I know many times there are rotational programs. City has one themselves where you come in, you do sometimes they'll hire you for an intern, or sometimes they'll hire straight into the rotational program after the internship. You do a set of rotations. Then after that, you then get a long-term assignment for with usually a promotion. And then, after that, there's steadiness of, a certain amount of years till you get the next one. But I think in most cases, it's going to be to the individual to do their part, to roll up their sleeves, to do everything and show. But I think these kinds of questions at least show that you're thinking long term, you're thinking about growth, you're thinking about a career. You're not looking at this as a job, but you're looking at this as more of as a long-term career set. Listen, I want to be respectful of everyone's time because I know we're supposed to end at 8. And I do want to give Jalissa a chance to do a closing, but I just wanted to personally thank all of you for coming and giving us this opportunity to talk. So thank you all. And Jalissa, I'll turn it back over to you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much to you, Sergio and Maura. Thank you both for attending and for giving us this insightful information. So we just want to, again, remind you that we advocate you to take the strategies that we share today and really just start applying them as you connect with recruiters and organizations to really capture and seize the new career opportunities that are out there. So I do want to remind you, don't forget to register for our virtual career fair on April the 9th at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. You will have an opportunity to connect with top employers and explore exciting career paths, and then really bring these insightful recommendations that these two professionals have shared with us today. So the other date, we also look forward to seeing you on April the 8th at 7 p.m. for our next session, Speak to Impress. It really is a 60-second elevator pitch for you to kind of start developing. Again, thank you for your time and participation. We wish you the very best in your professional journey, and we're excited to see you at the career fair. Thank you so much.
Thank
Have a
you,
good day.
guys. Have a great
Bye.
night.
Thanks, everyone.